Entitled parent steals my MacBook and calls the police on us. So my friend and I were hanging out playing games on my PS4. I do video editing and Photoshop for a living, so I have 3 MacBooks. Our cast and crew are entitled parent, me, police, and friend. While playing, I noticed that one of the MacBooks are missing. I opened Find My Device and ring it. It was in the entitled parent's bag. The entitled parent runs to the MacBooks and takes them. She takes the bag from me and shoves it in her bag. I rush to my phone and call the non-emergency number. I tell them that the entitled parent has stolen 3 MacBooks, and I tell them the license plate, etc. I chase her on foot, and she unfortunately got in her car. I use the GPS to locate them. 2 officers come to my location, and I show them the GPS. They then ask me to come into their car and chase the entitled parent. Eventually, the entitled parent goes to her house and goes inside. The police go in and do something. Well, I don't know, I wasn't inside. She then comes out in handcuffs, and the officers hand me my MacBooks. She screams, "He stole these from me! He also stole $1,000! The police believed it and also questioned me for about half an hour. The police asked me to prove that I owned the MacBooks, which I did. He then asks the entitled parent to prove that I stole $1,000, which she could not. I was released, and the officers asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said yes, and I still don't know what's going to happen. Our next story was posted by user JustABundleOfAnxiety, titled, "Entitled Mum Comes into School to Slap a Kid because he accidentally got hot glue in his son's clothes." So, this encounter with the wild beast wasn't mine, but my mum's. My mum is a teacher there. She didn't interact with her, but she did witness it. Our cast are the entitled mum, the wild beast, kid, the poor fighter that had the encounter with the beast, SM, staff member. The kid is about 12 to 13 years old in this story, and so is her son. Now onto the story. So apparently during arts and crafts class, yes, we do have arts and crafts classes here until we're in high school, the kid got hot glue in the entitled mother's kid's clothes. Because he is nothing like his mum, he simply said it was okay and kept going on with his day. At the end of the day, the entitled mother comes to pick up her son at the front gate of the school, and that is where her kid breaks the news to her. She turns bright red and storms out of the car, screaming banshee, "I demand to know where kid is!" She goes into the hangout area, and unfortunately for him, he was just playing a card game with his classmates while waiting for the bus. The entitled mother stomps over to him, and the following conversation went like this: "You son of a bitch! How dare you get hot glue in my son's clothes!" And proceeds to slap the kid hard. "You're gonna pay for his clothes, and you deserve the same happen to you for to learn a good lesson." At this point, the kid is dumbfounded looking at the entitled mother, and as my mum was about to intervene, the staff member comes up first. "Excuse me, ma'am, you can't just storm in here like this, and do that to one of our students." She puts her finger in the staff member's face and goes, "Don't you dare talk to me like that! He did that to my little precious angel, and now he got what he deserved." At this point, more kids have gathered round, and all of them were looking daggers at the entitled mother, because both the staff member and the kid are really good people, and most students love them. At this point, the entitled mother has a group of 12 to 14-year-old students looking at her ready to snap at any second if she decides to do any more harm to anyone. So she just leaves and goes back to her car. The kids' parents were called, and they went to the police, and at that moment, everyone is getting questioned. But if anything more happens, I'll keep you guys posted. Our next story was posted by user Jfzitdidtigx, titled, "Entitled Mother Wants Me to Have a Preemie Baby, so I Won't Outshine Her Birthday." I'm new to Reddit and not sure if this fits into this subreddit, but here it goes. Since I was a kid, my mum, the entitled mother, has been self-centered first and a parent second. I could easily write a novel's worth of posts here about growing up with her. I developed a severe anxiety disorder very young, in large part due to the things that she would do and say to me. She's not an evil person. I genuinely believe she did the best she could, but just didn't have the skill set for success. As an adult, I feel sad for her because it must be terrible to be stuck with a brain that works in such negative ways. Thanks to therapy, I have fortunately come a long way since my most anxious younger days. That being said, she is the same old entitled mother from my childhood, and I think it would help me more to get out my rant here than to scream at her. So here it goes. This happened a couple weeks ago. I'm pregnant with my first child. I've wanted a baby for as long as I can remember, and it took us a long time of trying to finally become pregnant. I won't bother with details, but once it finally happened, there were persistent signs of miscarriage looming that doctors were warning us of over the first trimester. Needless to say, my partner and I spent most of the first 3 months stressed beyond belief and scared of losing what we've both wanted so badly. Everything seems to be going smoothly now, and we're just starting to come down from the fear and enjoying daily growth of our baby. Flash forward to me finally feeling comfortable enough to tell my entitled mother that I'm pregnant, as well as the horror story we'd been dealing with leading up to this announcement. She showed very little interest. Picture telling someone it's supposed to be nice weather this weekend. That was the extent of joy shown. I wasn't overly surprised, since it's typical of her, and did my best to focus on our excitement. Then came her learning of my due date, 8 days before her birthday. Suddenly, her interest peaked to a flustered reaction, and she made a comment or two about that not being ideal. I brushed it off and changed the subject soon after. About a month later, I was in town without my partner and stopped by her house quickly. Almost as soon as I sat down, she started in with what I could tell had been on her mind since our last visit and announcement, minus the flustered bit. This time she was ready. This was the conversation. You know, December really isn't a good month to have the baby. We already have so much going on that month. It's really gonna get in the way of things. What things will me having a baby interfere with? Well, there's Christmas to plan for, and my birthday. So, 2 things then. Oh, no, it's also the neighbor's birthday, and your sister's birthday is the beginning of the next month. I just think it's gonna be too hectic with all that going on. Side note, my half-sister is significantly older than me at 50 years old, and we've never once celebrated her birthday since she only visits about once a year at best. The neighbor is an 18-year-old boy that has zero affiliation to our family, and my entitled mother just happens to know his birthday is in December. And somehow thought throwing this in helped back her case? Okay, well, I guess we'll have to find a room to squeeze my unborn child in there, because there really isn't much I can do about it. My mother, ignoring my last remark and continuing with her train of thought, says, 5-pound babies that arrive early are so much cuter than fully grown ones anyway, because they're so little. Given what we've already been through, if anything, I'd rather the baby was born a little later than early, so it's fully developed and has the best chance at being healthy. Having a baby a few weeks early isn't going to make that much difference. Lots of healthy babies come early. I'm gritting my teeth at this point. So are you suggesting I go tell my midwife or a doctor that I need to be induced or have a preterm C-section in November because a grandchild in December really doesn't fit into your hectic schedule? The entitled mother, seeing my anger rising, says, it's just something to consider. This exchange sums up my entitled mother in a nutshell. At 71 years old, her main concern about the birth of her grandchild is that it will outshine her own special day. Since this exchange, I have told several people my due date, whose birthdays are also in December, and every reaction from those people has been excitement and comments about how fun sharing birthdays would be, and jokes about the best babies being born in the month of December. You know, sane reactions to happy news. Thanks for listening, everyone. I needed that. Our next story was posted by user Kessman87, titled, Entitled Mother Wants Family Dog on Plane, Mentions Bomb. So, I've seated a few rows behind a family of 4, and the boarding is nearly complete. Family daughter, entitled kid, is sobbing, and it gets more and more audible as more people get in and on their seats. Finally, entitled mother gets a hold of the flight attendant and demands her to ask the captain one more time if they could have their dog in the cabin instead of the pet compartment. The flight attendant tries to explain that their dog is too large and has to travel in it separately. This provokes the entitled kid to cry out even louder, and the flight attendant tries to explain how it's perfectly safe for animals to travel in their designated compartment underneath the passengers. The fuss starts to attract attention, and someone close to my row announces their severe allergy to dogs to the family and the flight attendant. The entitled mother raises her voice and demands the flight attendant to dig their luggage and dog out of the plane, as they'll find another airline that allows all family members in the cabin. At this point, the plane is full and the doors are closed, and it seems like the captain's waiting for confirmation from the crew to start rolling towards the takeoff strip. The flight attendant tries to explain they would have to go through all the luggage to find theirs, and how that would delay the flight. The entitled mother is having none of it, and very clearly articulates, "You would turn your back in an instant and go through all of it if there was a bomb, wouldn't you?" All movement and chatter stops, and the flight attendant goes very serious. "Please remain seated, we'll see what we can do." It takes less than a minute for the police to arrive and escort the family out. 10 more to get their luggage, and the dog, and another 5 for the flight to take off. Seeing the mad angry husband and the crying kids watch their mum put in the police car was the best start to a holiday that I've had in a long time. Our next story was posted by user nikknox, titled, My daughter invited her 8-year-old friend to swim in our new pool, and friend brings her toddler's sister along with swimsuit on. I told friend sister could swim too, if mum comes to watch her and sends her home with that message. Entitled mother sends both back again, repeatedly. So I guess the title was the TLDR. So let me tell y'all about how this entitled mother tried to have me be her free babysitter/lifeguard. We just got one of those above ground pools you set up yourself. It's 4 feet deep and 14 feet round. We spent the majority of 2 days prepping and filling it and letting it warm. Finally yesterday it was ready, and my daughter asked if she could invite the little girl she's semi-friendly with from down the street to come swim with her. Since they're 8 and they're tall enough to stand with heads above the water, I said okay. Well, her little friend brought her toddler sister, who's probably on the younger side of 2, definitely too small to stand with her head above the water. Well, I tell the friend that little sister can't get in the water unless her mum is here to watch her, and send her home with that message. They both come back and she says, "Mum said she's fine in her float and I can watch her." And I said, "No, it's not fine. I don't think that an 8-year-old is responsible enough to watch a toddler in a pool, and I'm not going to be the one watching her either. You need to tell your mum, either she comes to watch your little sister, or she's not getting in the pool." They both go home, and then both come back. At this point I'm livid, and walk back to their house with them, and pound on the door. No answer. I keep knocking. And then the garage door starts to open with this woman backing her car out. I quickly went and stood at the end of the driveway with all the kids in tow, both of hers and both of mine. She gets out of her car all ticked off, and asks me what my problem is. I tell her my problem is that I'm not her babysitter, and that I'm definitely not going to be responsible for keeping her baby from drowning in my swimming pool on my property. She then proceeds to start baby talking her own kids, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, babies. The mean lady isn't gonna let you swim. I'm so sorry, princesses." And on and on. Of course, toddler bursts into tears. And then entitled mother screams at me, "Look what you've done! You've made her cry and ruined her day. Hope you're proud of yourself." She then snatches up the little sister, who's screaming, and tosses her in the car, and screams at my friend to get in too. The friend is red in the face, and you can tell she's so embarrassed and just mumbles sorry while climbing in the car. The entitled mother then proceeds to peel out of her own driveway, and we walk back home. Freaking binge. Since it seems to be assumed, I am not leaving the kids unattended. I was right beside the pool doing yard work and planned on continuing once all the kids were in the pool. I did not want to watch a small toddler in the pool, as she would require extreme supervision. Like sitting and staring directly at her kind of supervision. She could not even stand with her head above the water. Also, on top of that, my rule was refused when I asked politely the first time and demanded the second time. And then this woman tried to leave. After knowing I said no, for anyone who's saying, "Well, you could have just watched her," no, I couldn't, I didn't want to, and I don't need a reason to be a free babysitter for a tiny toddler that I've literally never met. And our last story was posted by user WokeAF, titled, "Entitled Mum Threatens to Call Child Protective Services on My Father when he won't pay for her heating." Growing up in Canada, I played quite a bit of hockey. This actually happened to my father as I was only 13 and playing in the hockey game. As you know, it is very cold in the hockey rinks. But our home rink at the time had a small heating system over the stands where the parents sat. By default, the parents of the home team sat in the left bleachers and the visiting parents on the right. At the top step, there was a little machine that you could feed quarters into. 1 quarter paid for 5 minutes of heating. I know that's a lot. My father was a nice guy and would usually bring a bag of quarters to keep the bleachers that he and my fellow teammates' parents sat on warm. And most of the time, a parent from the visiting team would usually do the same. But on this specific day, we were playing a team from farther away, and all the parents and kids already seemed a little cranky from having to wake up early and the long drive in the terribly cold weather. Just before the game started, my dad put his quarters in, and this caught the attention of the entitled mother. The entitled mother confronted my father, asking if he could pay for their heating as well, as none of them had quarters. My dad politely said no, and recommended that the entitled mother could get change for $1 at the concession stand. The entitled mother called him ridiculous, saying he should pay for her heating because he was the guest. Once again, my father explained that it wasn't his duty to pay for her and began to walk away. But the entitled mother wasn't having it. She steps in front of him and takes his bag and points out that he still has some left. My father explains those are for the parking meter and snatches the bag back. The entitled mother proceeds to pull the "Oh my god, did you just assault me?" move, but seeing that no one has even noticed her shouting, gives up on that. My father attempts for the second time to walk away, and for the second time, the entitled mother steps in front of him. She then begins calling my dad poor, and eventually she somehow gets the conclusion that he's mistreating his son, me, and is too poor to raise a son. This is where the entitled mother crossed the line. My dad, who is a pretty big dude, gets in her face and says, "You can insult me, but don't you dare insult my parenting." The entitled mother responds with, "Well, I'm just gonna have to call CAS, the Children's Aid Society." My dad, who has had enough at this point, squeezes himself past her and returns to his seat. It's not over yet. At this point, the entitled mother is yelling at my father from across the bleachers, and this time, one of the officials hear the entitled mother screaming and tells her to stop yelling or she will be removed. The entitled mother then proceeds to threaten the official, and that's when the ref decides he's done with her and gets someone to remove them from the rink. All happily ever after, but you gotta feel bad for her kid who had to watch this all go down. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments, and we'll have a chat about it. Until next time, see you later. Bye.